Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle, and this is chapter 9.3. Once pyruvate has been oxidized in glycolysis, broken down from that molecule of glucose into two molecules of pyruvate, it can then get ready to enter the citric acid cycle, which completes the energy yielding oxidation of all organic molecules. This can only happen in the presence of oxygen, which means it's an aerobic respiration process. Pyruvate enters the mitochondria now that it is small enough, where the oxidation of glucose gets completed. The first thing that has to happen is pyruvate needs to be oxidized into a molecule called acetyl-CoA. Before the citric acid cycle can actually begin, pyruvate must be converted to acetyl coenzyme A, which we call acetyl-CoA for short, which links the process of glycolysis to the process of the citric acid cycle. Pyruvate cannot just enter the citric acid cycle. It needs to be attached to this coenzyme in order for that process to happen. This step is carried out by a multi-enzyme complex that catalyzes three separate reactions. So here's our pyruvate. The first thing that's going to happen through a transport protein is this molecule of carbon dioxide is going to get kicked out. Then a hydrogen comes in, or an NAD plus comes in and binds to a hydrogen to snag that. And then the coenzyme A comes in to make acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA can then enter the citric acid cycle as the first molecule. The citric acid cycle is also called the Krebs cycle, and it completes the breakdown of pyruvate into molecules of carbon dioxide, which are given off as waste. The citric acid cycle oxidizes organic fuel derived from pyruvate, generating 1 ATP, 3 NADH electron carriers, and one molecule of FADH2, which is another electron carrier, every time that it turns. But you have to remember, we made 2 molecules of pyruvate from 1 molecule of oxygen, or of glucose. So 1 pyruvate enters at a time, makes 1 ATP, 3 NADH, and 1 FADH2. That then starts over again for that second molecule of pyruvate. So here we have our pyruvate. It becomes acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA enters the cycle, makes 1 pass. In that 1 pass, it gets rid of 2 molecules of carbon dioxide, makes 3 NADH, makes an ATP, and makes an FADH2. We pick up the second pyruvate that has been made into acetyl-CoA and start that process all over again. The citric acid cycle has 8 steps in total. Each is catalyzed by a specific series of enzymes. The acetyl group of the acetyl-CoA joins the cycle, combining with an already existent 5-carbon molecule that forms citrate or citric acid, and that's where the nickname comes from. The next 7 steps decompose that citrate back into our original 5-carbon molecule, making the process an entire cycle. The NADH and FADH2 that are produced during this cycle then carry the electrons onto the electron transport chain, which is what we'll talk about in our next video. Here's our cycle entirely. What I need you to know, acetyl-CoA enters, becomes citric acid. 1, 2, 3 molecules of NADH are produced per turn. 1, 2 molecules of carbon dioxide are produced. 1 molecule of FADH2 and 1 molecule of ATP. And that is the citric acid cycle. We'll leave this here. Again, acetyl-CoA goes in, forms citrate, makes 1, 2, 3 NADH, 1 FADH2, 2 carbon dioxide, and 1 ATP.